Welcome to Puerto Rico, La Isla del Encanto, or as we like to say, the Isle of Enchantment. Picture this. You're standing here, feeling the breeze, hearing the waves, and smelling the scent of mofongo drifting through the air. But before you let your mind drift off to sun, sand, and beach parties, let me tell you, Puerto Rico is so much more than its beaches. This island has a past that's packed with drama, resistance, rich culture, and some wild historical twists. So sit tight as we dive into the intense history of Puerto Rico. Let's start with a flashback. Way back to the year 1493. This is where our story really begins. The Taíno people were here first. Yep, for centuries before any Europeans even dreamed of setting foot in the Americas. They called this island Borinquen, which means land of the valiant lord. And when you see these mountains, jungles, and rivers, you can see why they felt it was a paradise. The Taíno were chill people. They fished, they farmed, and lived off the land in these tightly knit communities. Life was good. But in November 1493, that peace, it got a serious wake-up call. Enter Christopher Columbus and his crew of Spanish explorers showing up unannounced on these shores. To the Spanish, Puerto Rico was an untapped land of treasure, gold, adventure, a new frontier. But to the Taíno, these strangers were a whole lot of trouble. As the Spanish began their conquest, they found themselves in one of the toughest places to defend. It seemed like every empire with a ship and a flag wanted a piece of Puerto Rico, and the Spanish weren't going to lose their discovered treasure without a fight. So, they went big. They fortified San Juan, setting up massive stone forts like El Morro and San Cristóbal, which would guard this island for centuries. Imagine standing guard here on these walls in the 1500s. You'd be looking out to the horizon for pirate ships, for English and Dutch attackers, all of them hoping to sack the city and claim this strategic stronghold for themselves. These forts weren't just for defense, they were statements. Puerto Rico was Spain's Caribbean jewel, and they were ready to fight to keep it. Now, let's zoom out a bit and check out what the Spanish colonization did to the people here. For the Taíno, it was devastating. Many were enslaved, forced to mine for gold, and died from diseases brought by the Europeans. It's heartbreaking, and it's estimated that within a few decades, the Taíno population had all but vanished. But they're not forgotten. Taíno words, traditions, and even some of their descendants are still alive in Puerto Rican culture today. With the loss of Taíno labor, the Spanish began bringing enslaved Africans to Puerto Rico. This tragic, brutal shift laid the foundation for something remarkable: the blending of African, Taíno, and Spanish cultures. Over the centuries, these cultures would mix to create something entirely unique, from the music to the food to the religion. The legacy of resilience started here. And let's talk about the music. The Spanish brought their guitars, African slaves brought drums, and Puerto Ricans turned this fusion into bamba and plena, later giving birth to salsa, one of the island's most famous exports. It's more than just a beat, it's a symbol of Puerto Rican identity, a voice for the island's passion, struggle, and joy. Now let's fast forward to 1898, a year that would be a total game changer for Puerto Rico. This is when the US steps onto the scene as America goes to war with Spain. When the smoke cleared, Spain lost, and Puerto Rico, along with the Philippines and Guam, was handed over to the United States. Suddenly, Puerto Rico was part of a new empire, a pretty surreal shift from Spanish rule. Think about what that meant. The island, with its distinct history and culture, was now caught between worlds. Puerto Ricans became US citizens in 1917, just in time to be drafted into World War I. But here's the catch. While they could fight in the US military, they couldn't vote in presidential elections, and their representation in Congress was, let's just say, limited. For the rest of the 20th century, Puerto Rico was at a crossroads, juggling its unique identity and cultural heritage with the reality of US control. The debate around independence, statehood, or maintaining its unique Commonwealth status still rages on. And let's not forget the wave of migration that started in the 1940s when Puerto Ricans moved to New York and other cities, bringing the energy of the island to the mainland. Puerto Ricans in the US made their mark in music, art, politics, you name it. They weren't just blending in, they were transforming the culture. From the rise of salsa in New York to the vibrancy of New Yorican poets, Puerto Ricans became a vital part of America's story while always staying fiercely connected to their island roots. Today, Puerto Rico is in a new chapter. It's still grappling with issues from economic struggles to the devastating effects of Hurricane Maria in 2017. But in true Puerto Rican style, the people are resilient, always finding strength in their community, art, and culture. So here we are. Puerto Rico's story isn't over. It's evolving. This island is a symbol of endurance, of a culture that's thrived against the odds, shaped by Taíno, African, and Spanish influences. It's a place where every beat, every flavor, every celebration speaks to a story of survival and pride. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Puerto Rican history. If you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. There are so many more stories to explore, and I'd love for you to be a part of them.